All right, welcome in everyone. Ready to take another deep dive into Underground to Canada.
Always ready for a deep
You
dive.
guys had some awesome questions about Chapter 18 and Julio and Liza's wild escape, so we're going to tackle those, get right into it. We left off with them on the Mayflower.
Right, about to cross Lake Erie.
Finally, freedom's in sight, right? And then, bam!
A slave hunter and a sheriff. Talk about a wrench in the
It's
plans.
like heart-stopping, right? Smucker really knows how to build the suspense. Picture this. The girls hiding in that teeny lifeboat,
I can barely even imagine being crammed in there.
while those men are searching the ship above them. So close.
It really shows the danger they were in, how
Bet they're-
desperate things were.
Remember what they vow to do if those guys find them.
Jump into Lake Erie rather than be captured.
Exactly. That's some serious determination.
You know, the lake itself almost becomes another character.
Oh, how so?
Well, it represents both danger and the path to freedom.
Yeah, that's a powerful symbol.
Definitely really highlights that precarious situation. It's escape
Oh.
or...
Or certain recapture.
Right.
Meanwhile, up on deck, we've got the captain.
The unsung hero.
He's pretending to cooperate with the search, but you can tell he's furious.
I bet. I mean, talk about putting himself at risk to help these girls.
It's a huge reminder that so many people in the Underground Railroad were risking their own lives. Not just helping others, but really putting everything on the line.
Yeah, definitely not just some abstract idea, right? This was real danger.
Absolutely. But the captain, he manages to stall those guys,
Long enough for the Mayflower to set sail.
leaving the slave hunters behind. Talk about a close call.
I was on the edge of my seat reading that part.
Me too. Then the mood shifts.
Yeah.
The Mayflower's sailing away. It's nighttime.
Peaceful, beautiful,
And Julie keeps looking up at the North Star.
guiding their way.
She mentions it throughout the whole chapter. It's like more than just a direction for her. Right?
Oh, definitely. I see it as, like, hope. That unwavering belief in freedom.
That no matter how dark things get, freedom's out there. You just got to keep moving towards it.
Exactly.
And even as they're celebrating escaping, she thinks about Mammy Sally.
Right, wondering if she's following that same North Star.
It's a reminder that even though Jolie and Liza are free, the journey isn't over. Not for everyone.
Such a powerful point. Their freedom is a victory, but it also highlights...
That so many others were still enslaved.
Yeah.
So morning comes, and the Mayflower reaches Canada.
Can you imagine that feeling?
I know. Smucker describes Liza kissing the ground.
Julie taking off her cap, like she doesn't have to hide anymore.
It's like this huge weight has been lifted. They're finally free.
It's so symbolic, right? All that emotion packed into those simple actions.
And then we see the captain.
He's got to head back to Ohio. Can't risk getting caught.
He has this great line where he compares himself to a conductor on a water train.
It's perfect. He brings them to freedom, but can't stay.
He's got to go back and help others.
Keep that train moving.
And before we move on, we can't forget Mr. Ross.
The abolitionist, right. He arranged for someone to take the girls to St. Catherine.
To Julie's cousin Lester, showing how important that support network was.
It takes a village, as they say.
Even in freedom, they're not alone.
Exactly. It's a community effort.
Chapter 18 ends on such a hopeful note, but there's definitely a sense of...
What's going to happen next?
Right. What's life in Canada going to be like for them?
So many questions still to explore.
Well, we've covered a lot already.
A great start.
And there's so much more to unpack.
So you guys were curious about Julie taking off her cap when they reached Canada.
Yeah, that really stood out, didn't it? It's such a powerful moment.
Totally. It's like for so long, she had to hide who she was.
You know, conform to what people expected of her as an enslaved person.
Right, exactly. And then that cap comes off.
It's almost like a physical representation of her freedom, you know.
Yeah, like she doesn't have to shrink back anymore. She can just be herself.
Embrace her Black identity without fear. It's beautiful, but it also makes you think, even though they're in Canada, their journey isn't really over, is it?
Oh, definitely not. Freedom's not just about reaching a place, right? It's a whole process.
It's healing from the trauma, figuring out life in this new world.
And for Julie and Liza, that's just beginning. Speaking of, one of your questions was about Mammy Sally.
Ah, yes. Do you think she made it to freedom, too?
That's the big question, isn't it? Julie hopes so.
But we never really know for sure.
Right. It's kind of left open.
Which, you know, is heartbreaking in a way. To be separated with no guarantee of seeing your loved ones again.
Definitely. Smucker really captures that emotional toll, the way slavery tore families apart.
And even if they did reunite, imagine the years of not knowing. The worry, the wondering.
Yeah, that would leave its mark for sure.
It makes you appreciate how lucky Julie and Liza are to even have each other.
Absolutely. They have that support, that bond to help them through.
Before we move on, you mentioned the captain being like a conductor on that water train.
Oh, yeah, that analogy, it's so perfect.
It really is. He guides them to freedom, but can't stay with them,
Right, he has to go back, keep doing his part.
helping others escape. Like it's this vital link in the chain.
But he never gets to fully experience that freedom himself.
It makes you wonder what that must have felt like, you know? Knowing you're helping people reach this incredible goal, but you can't join them.
Yeah, the sacrifice there is huge. And it wasn't just him. So many people in the Underground Railroad risked everything.
Their lives, their families, all to help others. It's amazing.
And speaking of helping others, remember Mr. Ross, the Quaker
Of
abolitionist?
course, the one who arranged for the girls to get to St. Catharines.
Yeah, where Julie's cousin Lester is waiting.
That really shows the importance of community, right?
Totally. It's not enough to just escape. You need a network, a place to belong.
People to support you, help you build a new life.
Makes you wonder what that life will be like for them in St. Catharines, doesn't it?
Will they be welcomed? Will they find peace after everything they've been through?
So many questions to consider. And it's important to remember, even though they're in Canada, their journey's far from over.
Exactly. They still have to confront the past, navigate all these new social dynamics.
Figure out who they are in this free world, and that's what makes Underground to Canada so powerful.
It doesn't shy away from those complexities. It makes you think about freedom, justice, and that ongoing struggle for equality. You know, it's amazing just how much happens in this one chapter alone.
I know, right?
We've got danger, we've got the chase for freedom,
Yeah.
and we see such bravery.
Like the captain.
Exactly. And Julie Spilly and Liza, they're on this emotional roller coaster.
Terrified 1 minute, then hopeful the next.
And then finally reaching Canada, they're overwhelmed.
Relief, uncertainty, it's all mixed together.
It really shows that reaching freedom, that's just one step,
There's so much more to it than that.
especially after escaping slavery. Rebuilding your life isn't easy.
Not to mention dealing with the trauma, facing a whole new world.
And for a lot of people, like Julie Gary, they didn't know what happened to the people they left behind.
That not knowing, it must have been so hard.
Speaking of hard things, one of the questions we got was about faith.
Yeah.
Both Julie and Liza, they pray a lot, especially when things are tough.
It's interesting, right? How their faith helps them.
It gives them comfort, strength, a way to cope with everything they're going through.
Yeah, like an anchor.
And it connects them to their history, their community, their ancestors.
People who went through similar things.
So it's a source of resilience, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It reminds them they're not alone, even when things are darkest.
But it also makes you think about religion and slavery.
How did people keep their faith when facing such brutality?
That's a tough one.
No easy answers there. But for some, faith gave them hope,
That things would get better, that justice would win out.
even if it wasn't in their lifetime.
And for others, maybe faith was a comfort.
A way to make sense of their suffering.
It's important to remember that there's no single answer, right? Everyone's experience was different.
Exactly, and their relationship with faith would reflect that.
So back to chapter 18, Julie and Liza are in Canada, but their journey isn't over.
They're on their way to St. Catharines to meet Julie's cousin, Lester.
And that reunion, it represents so much.
New beginnings, finding a community.
Hopefully a place where they can heal and belong.
It shows that freedom isn't just about being on your own.
It's about those connections, those anchors that make life meaningful.
What will life be like for them in St. Catharines, I wonder?
Will they be accepted? Will they find peace?
So much to think about. And remember, Underground to Canada doesn't give us all the answers.
It challenges us to really think about what freedom means.
And what justice looks like.
And that the fight for equality, it's still going on today.
It's a journey we all have to take together.
So, to our listener, we hope this deep dive gave you a new way to see Underground to Canada. It's a story about history, about freedom, and about the strength of the human spirit. Thanks for joining us.